Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Legion Remix is coming so soon, and it's one of the most fun pieces of content that I am personally genuinely so excited about. Like Mr. Pandaria Remix, which gave us an opportunity to dive back into mob style content with a brand new character progression system and so many different cosmetics to earn, being able to do that all over again in one of the fan favorite expansions that is Legion is going to be a ton of fun. Especially if you're somebody who's been enjoying the collector's bounty buff, just farming mogs and mounts, you're basically going to be able to do that, but with a direct currency within Mob Remix. Play the game, buy the rewards directly without any RNG, so it's going to be awesome. However, not every Legion reward is making its way back for Remix, and Blizzard actually recently put out a blog post going over what will be coming back as a reward during this expansion Remix, but also a handful of items that will not be, and those handful of items were enough to stir up and invite a ton of drama and put Blizzard right up against the very community that plays their game, with hundreds and thousands of players all voicing their concerns all at the same time regarding some of the announcements they've made regarding Legion Remix. And essentially for this video, I kind of want to dive into this whole recent drama, go over exactly why players are upset with Blizz, what they can do to potentially fix it, and even give you some of my takes regarding this whole situation. As always, if you guys want to keep up with any future WoW updates, especially when it comes to Legion Remix, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, because whenever the content does come out, we'll definitely be making a lot of guides on this channel. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So first things first, let's go over the blog post that got a lot of people riled up. World of Warcraft for years now, ever since it got released from the get-go, always have had items throughout various eras and expansions that were created to be unique items, and to preserve some of that uniqueness, what they've done is some of those items have been removed after a period of time. Like maybe items that were available during very special events that happen only once throughout a game's lifetime. As in events that you will have to play the classic version of WoW to be able to re-experience those events all over again. Like the opening of Anchorage during the base vanilla, or the Mr. Pandaria challenge mode sets, which were mentioned to be a limited time reward. AOTC mounts usually are also maintained with a little bit of this like limitations, and even PvP elite armor sets which are made available during only certain seasons, and even the enchants for weapons, the tabards, those things do go away after like an expansion is over, and I've been able to get a number of these items, not all of them, but I definitely have some in my collection. They usually don't make it a regular occurrence where they bring back those items, but they do make some exceptions. One of those exceptions was during Mob Remix. A certain few Mr. Pandaria exclusive items that were removed were brought back in for a limited time. Like the heirloom weapons from Siege of Agamar, for example, is a great example. These were available during that raid, and when that raid no longer was the current content, they were lost and forgotten, locked away in a vault, or rather in the game's files somewhere. But for Mob Remix, they brought them back in, giving players a second chance to purchase some of those exclusive items all over again. And while not everything that was made exclusive or removed from the game was brought back from Pandaria, this was at least an opportunity for them to break some of those rules. And with the upcoming Legion Remix, there is also another opportunity for them to break some of those rules, leaving a lot of players wondering what else could they bring back from the vaults. And they've actually broke the silence recently in a blog post going over some of the items that will and will not be brought in for Legion Remix, which makes me wonder if they're talking about Legion Remix, we'll likely be getting some kind of a Legion Remix preview very soon. And that blog post reads as such. Many times throughout history of World of Warcraft, there have been items, titles, and other kinds of rewards that belong to the category of the most prestigious and historic accomplishments. Rewards that we believe should be preserved in a historical context for only those players who earned them at the time. Players who obtain these rewards also maintain a sense of achievement in possessing them to this day. Now, there's a wide number of items that they could have brought back for Legion Remix, but a lot of players were hoping that one of the more unique items that was moved from Legion, would be making a return in Legion Remix specifically. And a lot of players were hoping that maybe they'll be doing something with artifact weapons in particular, because there's so many different appearances for artifact weapons. Some you would gain from quest lines, others you would gain from dungeons or PvP content, others could be unlocked with a hidden quest line that every single class had to discover how to unlock, but everybody had something new to look forward to when it comes to different weapons, but also different recolors of those weapons. And every single artifact weapon had a very unique appearance tied to a content called the Mage Tower, which was like a solo challenge mode where you had to fight a different boss, and the boss was different for every single class and spec. Like there was a heal challenge, a tank challenge, a DPS challenge. Technically, the Mage Tower can actually be experienced to this day for different rewards altogether, but initially it offered you a unique Mage Tower variant of your artifact weapon. And many players thought that this could be a perfect opportunity to bring back a removed reward from that era, a reward that many players missed out on when going back to Legion, as just about every single appearance can be unlocked right now through either grind or doing a certain quest. So all those appearances are still technically available to some degree, but the Mage Tower appearance has been gone for a very, very long time. And this, a lot of players thought, could be their opportunity to bring a relic from the past back into the fold. Technically, the artifact weapon appearances from Mage Tower were marked as one of those unique, removed, exclusive items that will not be making a return in the future. But you have no idea how many countless players, viewers, friends, guildies that I've talked to that still held out hope, like genuine hope. A staggering numbers of players that I got to talk to that still hope that the Mage Tower skins would be coming back with Remix. And Blizzard did have to shatter everyone's anticipation and hopes all in a single blog post. In the blog post, they did list a number of things that will not be coming back with Legion Remix, and it's actually a very small number of items. One of them being seasonal PvP gear, which is confusing because technically those items do exist in the game. They have the original versions that you can buy, like the Honor and the normal Conquest set, and even the Elite sets if you've obtained Elite titles or achievements back during Legion. So if you played back then, you never got those sets, you can still go and obtain those looks altogether. The artifact weapon PvP appearances apparently are not coming back, although they are obtainable right now. I guess the honor system did change quite drastically from Legion to now, but those are still technically unlockable to this day. Though a third item on this list that will not be making a comeback is, sadly, the Mage Tower artifact appearances. And you can only imagine how the community's reaction ended up being. In short, it was not good. Everybody, hundreds, thousands of posts at this point probably, have been commenting on this announcement, with many players not really excited about this set of limitations. If you're someone who's also really unhappy about this change, feel free to just let me know how this makes you feel in the comments down below, because you're not the only one. There's a number of people that are saying that this is just a classic Blizzard, fun detected, gotta take it out of the game, can't be having too much fun with my video games whatsoever. Players having fun collecting items, can't let them do that. It's been a classic going on with Blizz for a while, to be honest. Though there's also players claiming that this is just the excitement that they had for Legion Remix does get sucked out a little bit, because technically all the other items you can farm on your own time. The weapons, the transbugs, the mounts, they're still available in Legion, but the artifact weapon skin for Mage Tower isn't. And for them, they felt like Legion Remix would have been the perfect time to add that back into the game, but now that it's not coming back, it's like less of a reason to even play Legion Remix. And there's a lot of people also out there that really dislike the FOMO when it comes to games. So Blizzard promoting FOMO is just unfun. Fear of missing out in gaming in particular can lead to things like decreased enjoyment, unnecessary stress, because now you feel like you have to be subscribed permanently just to make sure you don't ever miss out on anything cool. But also it can feel like it underserves the current player base that the game has. You know, the people that are playing the game right now, that are supporting the game right now, because they didn't play back at Legion, it's almost like punishes them from being able to achieve some of these awesome rewards. So there's definitely a number of people out there that are super unhappy about this announcement. What also doesn't really help out is there's also a bit of inconsistency with some of the messaging, as Legion Remix is going to have a variety of different rewards, and even some that have been removed from the game are making a return. Previously retired sets like the Mythic Chosen of the Dead sets from Trials of Valor Raid, the Mythic Creations, those are making a comeback, which is perfectly cool. Gear from the Legion pre-launch event that has like these fell version of Warlord Regenerer leading into Legion, those items that people usually just use for catch-up, yeah, those are also going to be making a return as well. Even the Violet Spellwing, an ahead of the curve mount from Legion, is also making a return. Ahead of the curve mounts have been in the game for quite a bit of time, but they got introduced way back in Mists of Pandaria. It was like a reward for players to be able to, hey, defeat this boss of this current raid now before the new expansion or before a new raid tier, and then you get a mount as a reward. Usually saved as a mount reward towards the tail end of an expansion. And consistently, when they had those mounts available, they gave players to know that, hey, this mount is going to be going away, get it now before we're in the next expansion, because then it is gone and you can no longer obtain it again. One of the first few ones that was added was back in Pandaria, which is the Core Crown Wolf. But during Mists of Pandaria Remix, they did not let players obtain that mount because they wanted to keep it unique, quote unquote. But now heading into Legion Remix, they're letting players obtain the Ahead of the Curve mount, which is the Violet Spellwing, which many players have begun questioning why the inconsistency. Why is one AOTC mount allowed to be obtained during Legion Remix, while the one from Mists of Pandaria isn't? The short answer, at least my answer, is I have no idea. Technically, the AOTC Mists of Pandaria, the Core Crown Wolf, was a mount tied directly to the achievement. It was a mount that was available for like a year, since Siege of Warcraft had a very long cycle and development Warlords General took ages. So that raid was out for a very long time. You only needed to kill the final boss on normal difficulty, 10 men or 25 men. Either one works, but for either one of those, you can get the wolf added to your account. The Legion one required you to kill the boss on heroic difficulty, so harder difficulty, but the raid wasn't out for a year. It was out for a while, but it had more of like a normal patch expansion cycle to it. So it was a limited window. You either got it or you didn't, very similar to the last few expansions. Also, the wolf was tied directly to the achievement, but the other AOTC mounts are not tied directly to achievement. You see, you get the achievement which unlocks a quest, and that quest is what rewards you a mount. So when you look at your mount journal and you just type the words like Ahead of the Curve, only the Core Crown Wolf shows up. You won't see the Violet Spellwing or any of the other AOTC mounts that you would have unlocked. That doesn't necessarily explain why there's such an inconsistency between one AOTC mount or another, one for Pandaria and one for Legion. But it is something I noticed while researching the topic. Still, the inconsistency does now exist because one AOTC mount was not allowed to be brought back in, but the other is. And if they're bringing back a unique time-sensitive reward, the Spellwing mount, why can't they also bring in the time-sensitive reward of the Mage Tower Weapon skins? And things like this just build frustration, and a lot of players are definitely very unhappy with Blizzard's response to the community, especially from a community that's been recently able to freely farm mounts and transmog and all of these things through the Collector's Bounty buff, which has no restrictions, just a ton of fun. Going into old raids, old dungeons, collecting all the loot you want, which is all players are really asking for. So you're going from this event of Collector's Bounty, which is unrestricted fun, to Legion Remix, which seems more like restricted fun. So there's definitely a lot of frustrations to go around. At the end of the day, my take personally is either bring all of it back or none of it back. Before I explain that, I do also want to mention that Blizzard got themselves into a bit of a rock and a hard place. Because on one side, they have a lot of the community that are like, why are these restrictions? Why make all these dumb rules? This gives players an opportunity to be able to get all these collectibles that they didn't get because they didn't play back in Legion. Why keep the FOMO going at all? But there's also another side of the argument for all these players that do care about these collectibles, or rather players that were promised that these collectibles would be made unique. Blizzard, throughout the expansions, whether it is challenge mode armor sets, challenge mode weapons of Warlords General, the artifact mage weapons of Legion, the AOTC mounts and things like that, they've constantly, every single time these items were to be removed from the game, they advertised, hey, these could be unique items, get them now because they are going to be gone. So they made the players a promise that these items are going to be going away. So if they were to bring it back in a way they'd be breaking that promise of players that thought, okay, it's a dumb rule, but it's a rule they made. It's a rule that exists to make these items feel unique, so you feel accomplished for earning them during the time when you could. Okay, it's a rule that was created, that's fine. But if you are going to make those rules, keep them consistent. Don't break those rules because then you're breaking the promises that you made initially. Then why would you make those promises to begin with? There's also a number of players that, let's say, played back in Legion 2 that do feel accomplishment from those artifact weapons. Not everybody, but there's a number of players that played back in Legion 2 that were just super casual. And then they saw the Mage Tower appear. They didn't really raid hardcore, they didn't really do M+ dungeons, they didn't really do a lot of difficult content, but when they saw that Sparkle Kitty skin on the Mage Tower, they knew they had to get it. But to do so, they did the boss fight and found that they actually kinda suck at the game. You had to face the music, you had to look yourself in the mirror and say that I am inadequate to get this item, but I still want it. Therefore, I'm going to improve on things. I'm going to get better gear on my character. I'm going to learn how to play my class properly. I'm going to learn how to do this boss fight. I'm going to farm all those nether shard fragments just to get a key to enter the boss. Yes, you had to actually farm open world content for days just to get another chance at this boss. People had 10s, 20, 50, 100 attempts on these bosses before they finally got even close to being able to get them. Some players really had to get out of the comfort zone to do something more than themselves to be able to unlock these cool cosmetics. And this could go beyond just the Mage Tower. Maybe there's a season where somebody decides, alright, I'm gonna grind PvP, get a certain rating, get that elite set, get that enchant, whatever the rewards are, or players that finally get that AOTC for the first time, or finally go and finish out the big, long, arduous, legendary, grindy quest or something. So maybe that's what they're coming from, is trying to preserve those moments for players that worked hard to get those items. And you could argue that back in Legion, technically, you could just go and get those artifact weapon appearances with like endgame gear, double legendaries, and the bosses were a pushover, but it still doesn't really take away from the players that did have to go beyond themselves, out of the comfort zone, to break past that mold of being a casual and really tackle like very difficult content for the first time ever. So maybe that's what they're trying to prioritize, is those players' experiences and trying to secure that experience in the future. I'm not saying that I agree with them, I'm more just trying to put myself in their shoes to try to understand them and why they would be so adamant about certain things not coming back. Either way, they put themselves between a rock and a hard place. Either they uphold those standards and a bunch of people are unhappy, or they let go of those standards, release those cosmetics, and the whole other set of people will be unhappy. They're basically in a lose-lose situation. This is why my personal stance is either all of it is back or none of it is back. So if they were to bring back the artifact weapons of Mage Tower, I'd be cool with it. Only if they brought all of these other removed things back into the game. Challenge mode sets from Pandaria, challenge mode weapons from Mortal Genre, and every other item that was made unavailable all should be brought back in for players to unlock. I don't think you should bring only some of them back, because what makes one unique item like the artifact mage weapon skins any different than the challenge mode sets of Pandaria? That was a unique, quote-unquote, exclusive item of that expansion era, so either bring all of them back or none of them. Now, somebody in the comments is definitely gonna bring up, but hey, the Spellwing is coming back, and that was a limited time event mount. Why is that back in, but none of the other Legion rewards are? You might even point out to the Spellwing, the AOTC mount of Legion is making return, but the Corcoran Wolf from Pandaria didn't during MoP Remix. And chat, I could sit here and be like, you know what, I will pretend like I'm some big brain know-it-all, but I'm just gonna be honest, I have no idea why they're doing this. And with my whole stance of either all of it should be back in or none of it, if they're bringing one AOTC mount, they should probably bring in the other. Maybe they should make a blue post talking about why the Corcoran Wolf cannot be brought back in, but while the Spellwing is brought in. I'm actually okay with the Spellwing coming back. There's a lot of players that are actually very excited for that mount. I just think they should also put on top of it the Corcoran Wolf as well on that bronze vendor, just so we can have both AOTC mounts for us to unlock. Again, I'm still in the stance of either all of it should be back in or none of it should be back in, and the Spellwing is definitely a bit of a conundrum. At the end of the day, I did want to leave this video on a positive note. I think the Mage Tower, however, could get a bunch of new cool rewards. They did say Legion Remix is going to be getting a bunch of cool items, more than we got in Miss Pandaria. When they brought back the Legion Mage Tower during a Shadowlands update, they gave it some brand new rewards. So players that played back in Legion, but also players that didn't, also had something forward to look to. Of course, even back then, players complained about why the Mage Tower weapons are not available, but I think it was a nice way to, if they want to keep the Mage Tower weapons unique and rare and prestigious, it was a way to at least give players something to look forward to from the tower itself. Everybody got a new variation of the Jumar Sigaris armor sets, and we even got a new druid form of the Fel Werebear. Players that played back in Legion got a new Fel variant. It looks awesome. but they'll still get to keep the original ones, and players that are new that never got the original now at least have a version of the Fellware Bear with all of its animation and model and movement and attacks and everything that makes it unique in terms of its overall skeleton. And we already know that there's a bunch of different unused artifact weapons way buried deep in the game's files that never got used back in Legion, and there's likely going to be, maybe, the rewards for a future Mage Tower. At least that's going to be my assumption. And I think it'd be awesome if they got like a brand new set of weapons for everybody in Legion Remix. Like if you just wanted to make sure that you're, satisfying everybody so you can add new weapons to your collections, but also trying to keep the original rewards unique, just adding new, high quality, super detailed weapons with a variety of different variations to this new Mage Tower, in my opinion, would be probably the best middle ground solution. I also would love to see a new bear form of sorts on there, as well as a Sparkle Kitty form. There's a number of feral druids who never got the Space Kitty form back in Legion and would love to get some sort of a little variant for them to use in the future. I feel like that could be an opportunity to get like a Space Kitty 2.0 form and add it into Legion Remix that would make a ton of druids super happy. And to keep things going on this positive note, I actually am very excited about Legion Remix. I know there's a lot of drama going on about it right now, but I'm still super excited to play it. Mob Remix was incredibly fun, and I feel like Legion Remix is going to be wild, especially with some of the different things that they're doing, even if the Mage Tower skins won't be made available. This difficult version of open world content, of this torment mode they're hinting at, sounds insane, and I'm actually excited to see what they could do with the open world content with some of the different powers and bonuses we'll be able to get in Legion, as we get to play the most strongest characters out there. The power progression in Legion, I'm assuming it's going to be even greater than Remix, and in Remix we were walking gods, but in Legion with all these different legendaries and bonuses, there's so much opportunity to make the strongest characters that break the game completely. The fact that they're adding M+ scaling to Legion with all the different powerful characters that we have will give us an opportunity to absolutely break the game in two, and that's going to be a ton of fun. Bunch of different rewards to farm, from mounts to all the different transmogs to collect. That's also going to be very enjoyable, but it's also an opportunity for players to get another chance to level up some alts ahead of midnight. So it'll be a great opportunity for players to take a break from the normal War Within content and do something fun while preparing themselves for the next chapter of WoW, which I'm super excited for as well. So even though it sounds like I'm talking about a lot of negative stuff and drama, I am still excited about Legion Remix. I just felt like it was an important topic for us to mention over on this channel as well. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Also, definitely make sure to join our Discord community, especially if you want to keep up with any new class changes for patch 11.2, or if we ever get a new big updates and details regarding Legion Remix, we'll likely have the community diving into those topics as soon as we know something. Also, let me know your thoughts about everything we talked about so far in this video, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.